everybody, and welcome to The Magic Show. I'm your host, Evan Irwin, and today I want to talk about engines. And no, not like that one article I wrote, because the last place we want to go is there. No more car analogies for me. No, today I'm talking about engines as you and I know them, turning one resource into another or funneling an advantage from one card to another. The highest valued advantage in Standard is card advantage. The other is creature advantage, but don't forget resource advantage. Every winning deck has either resource, creature, or card advantage in some form. Let's discuss the archetypes of, quote, advantage in today's time spiral Standard and how they relate to our favorite format. Draw spells. Draw spells are, quote, pure card advantage. They simply replace themselves with more cards, usually with some modern day drawback of discarding one or more cards afterwards. The most obvious of these spells and the most played is that of Compulsive Research, the premier draw spell in the format. If you play Compulsive Research while staring at a land in your grip, you can read the spell as saying, quote, as an additional cost to play Compulsive Research, discard that worthless land in your hand and draw 3 cards. The fringe draw spells are currently Telling Time and Careful Consideration, both of which see play in their respective decks. The draw spell currently being ignored is Tiding, which is a fantastic spell, but Magnivore lost a lot of bite when Eye of Nowhere went bye-bye. Recursion. Recursion engines rely on the ability to play the same resource or threat over and over, and when they're in the same package, then this double whammy can really get nasty. Firemane Angel decks create card advantage by playing not only the same 4/3 first striker over and over again, but gaining life due to its very presence. This threat recursion is saving you from playing a card, gets under counterspells no less, and the resource of free life gain is just gravy, and an aspect that makes it invaluable in aggro matchups. Notice how Hinder's leaving the environment made Firemane a much better card and threat, while Condemn does not nullify it in this way. Condemn can be played around by not attacking, it can be persecuted, castigated, or simply counterspelled. Hinder was a much more powerful weapon against Firemane Angel, as it only needed the spell to be cast, not the angel to attack. Notice also the popularity of Draining Whelk has caused Firemane players to intentionally hold and discard Firemane Angel, allowing her 10 mana ability to take the place of letting them have a 7/7 Whelk that you can only chump block and must Wrath or Condemn out of the way, all while hoping they don't have a bounce spell or a counter spell. Solar Pox is the most obvious card advantage recursion engine, with Hakon and Court Hussars rocking the free world. Court Hussars' Impulse engine is the most deadly of all the recursion strategies. It is cheap, easily enabled, and gives you more options pound for pound than any other engine. When this, quote, goes off, per se, it's incredibly difficult to win against it. The only crack in Solar Pox's armor was burn, and modern builds have patched this with more peace of mind in the main deck. The last of the recursions is the Triskelius and Academy Ruins combo, which ruined me last week. This is an anti-control measure designed to put a 10 or more turn clock on a deck that can't handle that sort of threat recursion, let alone healing only 1 or 2 life points per turn. This is a great engine against control decks, but anything with pressure or better counterspells, such as Alex Kim's Snow Control, mean this deck is geared for just a certain opponent. Creature-based. Creature-based card advantage is more difficult to pinpoint, but in a deck like Blue-Green Aggro, it's easily apparent. Orin Viper is the premier creature, which makes this deck dangerous. Before Psionic Blast reared its ugly head, this deck focused more on the Sea Stompy aspect, with Plax Mana Stain behind the scenes as the all-star that makes it all work. Looter Ilkor was another great addition, with Shadow and Moldervine Cloak playing very well together. If you're talking pure getting more than you paid for advantage, Thelonite Hermit is proving Knutson was 100% correct in his assessment of this powerhouse, and its inclusion in Glare pumps all of their little dudes, and in the innovative Morph Dot deck, we saw how ridiculous it can be with a doppelganger hanging around. Now, beyond creatures you have Land-Based Creature Advantage, or the LBCA for card-carrying members, derives from everyone's new boy toy Urza's Factory and the old standby Vitu-Ghazi. These cards need immediate answers or serious pressure, as given time they will overrun the most cautious of opponents. A few mere Wrath of God and Condemn are not enough to stop the onslaught. Resource-based. Resource-based advantage comes in the form of having more mana than the other player while destroying their resources in return. Wildfire is a perfect example of this, as the Signet-heavy Izzatron player pounces on the unprepared foe. Karsten Bot Baby Slaughter Death Kill 3000 creates this advantage with land destruction, something that Wizards R&D thankfully keeps at bay. I know that some of you out there have not played in a time when land destruction was a real viable deck. Well, I can tell you right now, you do not want this. When Wreak Havoc was rumored to be 3 mana instead of 4, some players were truly upset at this, and to that I say, shame on you. The only land destruction that's been any fun in the last 3 years was playing March of the Machines against those damn Affinity players. Now that was a good feeling. Any other time, much like my most reviled card of all time, Plow Under, land destruction and mana denial have given Magic players nothing but frustration, and that's the last thing you want a, quote, skill testing environment to promote. Burn advantage. When you're not drawing cards, you're taking life. The reason that White Weenie with Red and Zoo and Gruul continue to do so well is that some decks are simply more enamored to draw spells and prepare themselves for the long game rather than kill their opponent. As Craig Jones so famously said, quote, 4 Wrath of God is not enough to stop Zoo. The recent addition of Lightning Helix to the mix has given these decks pause, but the popularity of Solar Flare and Tron continue to make them a force to be reckoned with. Combo advantage. I, for one, am proud to see Dragonstorm going for 28 top 8 appearances and 3 Champs titles. That's what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at Ryan Rassaw's winning Dragonstorm build. Just fantastic. I love a good, fun combo. Heartbeat never seemed like fun to me. Maybe that's because it was deadlier, or the math was harder, or maybe Dragonstorm was an interesting idea I took great interest in, and to see it succeed is satisfying. Nevertheless, this will be a factor in the meta for some time, and you should always have an answer for it. Combo is a facet of almost every meta game, and this is a good one. But where to go from here? I'm curious, if you revel in one metagame long enough, the same 1,587 cards we currently have in Standard for a much longer time than the 4 or so months we familiarize ourselves with these sets, what sort of metagame will we end up with? What new combos or undiscovered gems are we leaving out? But that's for you to figure out. There are more ways of getting an advantage in Standard than what I've covered so far. I mean, we still have the Champs Breakout Star, Momentary Blink, those decks that give you resource advantage with Coiling Oracle, Spell Control with Mystic Snake, Life Gain with Lockstone Hierarch, and Mana advantage with Yavimaya Dryad. I also didn't touch on the rack decks. 7 of those decks made top 8 at their respective champs, but none reached first place. So you have to at least give them a nod, but also wonder if their bad matchups are so bad that they just can't win some games, making it a lame duck too much of the time. Is the rock, paper, scissors metagame really what we're striving for? In podcasts, Randy Buehler talks about how they introduced a great number of Tier 2 cards in the environment to mix things up. I'm not sure that a Chroma is regarded as a Tier 2 card, and funnily enough, thanks to Mr. Psychotog, Shadow Mage Infiltrator is still seen as a Tier 2 card. I don't know what Tier Sonic Blast inhabits, or what it does except sell cards, and while you sort of despise the Shameless Chase rare, you also get the delicious joy of opening one yourself. I opened my very first one out of the box I got for making top 8 at Champs, and boy did it feel good. Regardless, today's Standard is ripe with the largest pool and arguably the most powerful Standard environment since I got to play Prosperity with Cadaverous Bloom and win boxes and boxes of Mirage. So you can say that certain cards like Wild Mongrel are Tier 1 because they propel strategies, and a Chroma needs reanimation or time, so it's Tier 2, but I think that's too much tiered thinking. All I know is, if you want to win with something new and unexpected and unexplored, create an advantage engine. What that engine looks like is up to you. Sealed craziness. Okay, everybody, I just got to throw this out there. This is an actual sealed I pulled from the Magic Online Time Spiral release events. See what you can do with it, and if you're watching this, then you'll get to see what I did with it. Alright everybody, here I am with my sealed deck that I did open in a Magic Online sealed event. And I don't know, you probably can't tell anything right now, but what I'm going to do first is focus on some of the ridiculous rares and bombs I opened in this sealed. We're going to sort by rarity, and let's check out a few of the big hits here. We got Disintegrate, Sacred Mesa, Chroma, Bogarden Hellkite, we got Ith, we also have Spike Tiller, he's pretty amazing. And the rest, you know, Undead War Chief, Whirling Dervish, meh. You know, so you got some bomb rares. You can work with this. But nevertheless, let's look at one of the builds I made of it, and I'll show you one of those now. Now, here is my first deck. It was a red, white, green that I actually used in the sealed, and I went 3 and 2 with it. Shorter went 4 and 1 with it. But of course the server crashed, and then I got distracted, and I came back like 45 minutes later, and of course I had lost. So, you know, that's kind of what you get. But after 20 minutes of waiting, I gave up. Obviously, a Chroma and Sacred Mesa. The great thing about these guys are that, you know, they're bombs, obviously, but the downside to them is that they cost 1,000 mana. And in this format, as Craig Jones was talking about just today, this is being recorded on Monday, that, you know, there's the aggressor and then there's the loser. You know, there's no real aggro control. There's no who's the beatdown. Who's the beatdown is who's winning, at least in his draft experience. So in sealed, it's a little different, but at the same time, these guys do cost a lot of mana and have been a little burdenish, just like Bogarden Hellkite. But of course, anytime these 3 cards in almost any variation hit the table, they can end the game rather quickly. Bogarden Hellkite is such a one-sided Wrath of God, it's just not even funny. But again, I thought this was an interesting build of it. I don't think I broke any ground with any of the green. Spinneret Sliver was sort of I need a bear. Spike Tiller is obviously fantastic, but again, another late game expensive card. I've got Scrib Ranger in here, and I've also got Search for Tomorrow. I've got 17 lands with 2 different totems, and figured that would be enough, you know, in terms of powering me head to 8 mana. I've never had a huge problem with it. Mainly that my lower casting cards, such as Ashcoat Bear and Spinneret Sliver, are so bad compared to other people's lower drops, you know, such as their 3 drops of Siphon Mages and their Cole Stoker Morph plays and so on and so forth, that by the time I get to my expensive bombs, they've got such a huge position I can barely hold on. But normally, you know, my bombs are such bombs that if they don't have an immediate answer to Bogarden Hellkite, they'll just lose. But so this is the first build, and after I played my required 5 games in the league that I entered, I built another version. Let's take a look at it. Alright, so this version takes what I thought was the weakest the weakest color of the deck, which was green, and puts in blue, because blue is obviously amazing. I mean, hello, have you read Richard Hone's articles? The man doesn't know how to do anything else but say go blue and stay away from green. Whether it's Ravnica or whether it's Time Spiral, and here you are. So in came the Viscera Deepwalker, and the Drakeling's amazing. Snapback is always obviously great. Looter Ilkor. You got Dreamstalker, which I'm a big fan of still yet. I know Jerome didn't really agree with me, but that's okay. Coral Trickster I think is okay. It's a really cool tempo card, you know. And of course you got your Careful Consideration, and Cancel is, you know, it's a counterspell. And there are many times where I'll say, just on my end of the table, where I'll say, well, they've got the cancel or they lose. And, you know, it's obviously nice to have that cancel and say, whatever huge bomb they've been building up towards, so they can just wreck your face with it. The ability to counterspell it is obviously incredible, and has won a lot of games. Also lets me play Ith. I didn't get to play Ith in that first deck. I was like, holy God, I was so blinded by my amazing, you know, unbelievable bombs I had elsewhere. For example, Spike Tiller I thought was just, you know, hugely unstoppable, but turns out he's not really. But otherwise, I really liked this build. I liked it a lot better. I thought it played a little bit better. I thought it was a little bit more consistent. It had a better early game. Looter Ilkor, Dreamstalker, it had the Deepwalker if you get that off turn 1. You know, sort of helped me in that area, and that was nice. Of course, by all means, you know, reply. Tell me what you think, what you thought. Are these decks just awful? Am I missing something? You know, I have built a sealed before and shown it to people as in the world and left a Ribbons of Night out. So that was sort of embarrassing. You know, oh, by the way, like the best black-blue removal ever. And you just leave it out of your deck. Okay. And that's another week, folks. Thanks for watching. P.S. If you're tired of the opening title screen, make your own video intro and send it to me at eirwin@gmail.com. Just make sure you include the name of the show and who hosts it.